We'll start the discussion on another topic called foreign exchange arithmetic. Under this, we'll be studying the following. One is the fundamentals of foreign exchange, and a little bit about the Indian forex market, meanings of direct and indirect quotes, and the basic exchange rate arithmetic, that is how to calculate the exchange rates, then the forward exchange rates, then finally the meaning of arbitrage. So let us start with the fundamentals of foreign exchange. So foreign exchange is the general mechanism by which a bank converts the currency of one country into that of another. So foreign exchange means we exchange the currency of one country with the currency of another country. So the currency of the country in which we are situated is called the home currency. For example, in the case of India, home currency is the rupee. Currency of another country is called the foreign currency. That is, if it is the currency of USA, it is called the US dollar. So whenever a bank converts rupees into foreign currency, either dollars or euros, or converts foreign currency into home currency, that is dollars into rupees or euros into rupees, then foreign exchange is involved. That means we are exchanging one currency with another, and this becomes necessary because of foreign trade. Foreign trade gives rise to foreign exchange. So what is foreign trade? Foreign trade is nothing but trade between two different countries. That is, whenever there is an export, one country sends goods to another country. So if India sends goods to another country, it is export from India. And if India receives goods from another country, it is called import into India. So whenever there is exchange of goods and services, need to be paid for. If India exports goods, India has to receive money in the foreign currency. That is, the person who is buying those goods will have to pay in the currency of his country. Then ultimately it has to be converted to Indian rupees. And similarly, if an Indian imports goods from another country, the importer has to pay for in the currency of that country. So he has to convert Indian rupees into that currency and then send the money to the importer. Same thing happens in the case of services. Services can include travel, education, and so on. If somebody travels to a foreign country, he needs to take foreign exchange for making purchases or meeting his expenditure in that country. For that purpose, he has to go to a bank, pay the rupees and take the foreign currency. Similarly, a foreign traveler visiting India will have to convert the currency which he has brought into India into Indian rupees, so that those rupees can be spent in India. Therefore, foreign trade gives rise to foreign exchange. Therefore, foreign exchange is one of the basic services normally provided by most of the banks in India. So let us talk a little bit about the fundamentals of foreign exchange. One is, every country has its own currency. The useful position of the currency can normally be had only in the country in which it passes. That means, if you want to hold rupees, you have to be in India. You can't be holding the rupees in another country. Similarly, if you want to hold US dollars, you have to be in US dollars. Though there are some laws which permit to hold foreign currency to some extent for certain periods. The exchange from one currency for another is mostly put through by banks by means of bookkeeping entries carried out in the two centers concerned. That means most of the foreign exchange is done by the bank, and these days certain other entities also are permitted to deal in foreign exchange. Almost all exchanges of one currency for another are effected with the help of credit instruments. Normally, there are credit instruments where exchanges are done. Normally, there is no physical movement. Normally, it is done between two banks. Though you will be getting foreign currency, the actual movement of currency is avoided to a great extent. Normally, it is done with the help of credit instruments. So now let us try to understand how the Indian forex market is working. The exchange rate in India is driven by the forces of demand and supplies in the local interbank market. So how the prices are determined? Normally they are determined by the supply and demand positions. If there is more demand for foreign currency, naturally that currency will appreciate in the market. And if there is less demand for foreign currency, then that will be cheaper in the market. So it is always a question of demand and supply. Normally, whenever more imports are coming into India, then there will be more demand for foreign currency, because importers will have to pay for their imports in foreign currency. Normally whenever exports start going up, there will be a lot of foreign currency coming into India, so the supply will be more. This is how the foreign exchange market works, driven by the forces of demand and supply. And normally they do not follow the international trend due to restrictions on the flow of capital or into the or out of the country. Normally the actual supply may be on an international basis, but it does not affect the actual supply and demand in a particular country, because each country has certain amount of restrictions on the flow of capital or flow of currency into country. In the case of India, there is still a lot of restriction on the capital flows from other countries, whereas current account flow is normally not restricted. Therefore, the exchange rate movements do not necessarily follow what is happening outside the country. It will also depend upon what restrictions are placed by the country in the flow of capital from one country to another. And before we find out as to how the rates are calculated, we have to find out as to how the rates are quoted, what different methods are used for quoting the rates in the foreign exchange market. So there are basically two types of rates. One is called a direct quote, the other is called an indirect quote. A direct quote is the home currency price of 1 unit of a foreign currency. It is the home currency price of a 1 unit of foreign currency. So in a direct quote, what we do, we always take 1 unit of a foreign currency. For example, 1 US dollars or 1 euro. And if it is 1 US dollars, let us say is 45.50 rupees, that is 45 rupees 50 paisa, it is called a direct quote, because here we are quoting in Indian rupees the price of 1 unit of foreign currency. That is a, and if it is quoted in terms of 1 unit of the home currency and so many units of the foreign currency, then it is called an indirect quote. So an indirect quote is the foreign currency price of 1 unit of the home currency. For example, rupee 1 is equal to 0.022 US dollars. So here the home currency is the rupee. So we want to find out what is the value of 1 rupee, and in so many units of foreign currency, that is US dollars. So direct quote and indirect quote are connected with each other. So one is the reciprocal of the other. So if you want to get a direct quote from an indirect quote, you have to divide one by the other. That means direct quote is always equal to 1 divided by indirect quote, or indirect quote is always equal to 1 by direct quote. For example, in the above example, if you have taken 1 US dollars is 45.50, if you want to find out the indirect quote there, what you have to do is you have to divide 1 by 45 by 50. That will give you the number of US dollars required for 1 rupee. So 1 rupee becomes equal to US dollars 0.0220. So that is the relation between direct quote and indirect quote. In India, traditionally we used to always quote the indirect rates. That was until 1893. Banks that time were required to quote all rates on an indirect basis only, and that was a lot of confusion in the minds of the people who would be buying and selling foreign currency. So India changed the system to the system of direct quotes from 2nd August 1993. So these days all banks quote the rates on direct basis only. That is, we always quote in terms of 1 unit of a foreign currency and so many units of rupees. Normally the rates will be 1 US dollars will be so much, or 1 euro will be so much, or 1 Singapore dollar will be so much of rupees. That is called the direct quote basis. So when we talk of the foreign exchange arithmetic, we have to find about different terms used in this. One is called the cross rate. Cross rate is nothing but the rate of one foreign currency in terms of another foreign currency. Normally direct rates, direct quotes and indirect quotes always involves a home currency. That means rupee is always there. But in case of a cross rate, it is one currency against another foreign currency. That means dollar in terms of euros, or dollar in terms of Australian dollars, or Australian dollars in terms of euros, etc. That is called a cross rate. For example, if 1 US dollar is 45.50 rupees and 1 euro is 80 rupees, then the cross rate will be 1 US dollars is equal to 45.50 divided by 80, that is 0.568 euros. So the quote is 1 US dollars equivalent to 0.568 euros. So here both the currencies are foreign currencies. Such a rate is known as the cross rate. And value date is a term normally used in banking, even for internal transactions. So value date is the date on which exchange of currencies actually takes place. Based on this, we have the following types of exchange rates, because the value date is important there. So we have two kinds of rates there. One is called the cash or ready. It is the rate when an exchange takes place on the date of deal. So if there is a sale or purchase of currency, if the actual exchange takes place on the same day, it is called a cash ready deal. That means immediately it takes place. And TOM means, TOM is the short form of tomorrow. It is called a TOM rate. So when the exchange takes place on the next working day, it is called a TOM rate. Whenever TOM rate is applied, it means the rate is decided today, but the actual exchange takes place on the next working day. That is a TOM rate. And we also have a what is called a spot rate. Normally all of you must have heard of the spot rate. When the exchange takes place on the second working day, it is called a spot rate. So in case of a spot rate, the actual exchange of currencies takes place on the second working day. That means if the deal is struck today, it will be day after tomorrow. That is called a spot rate. In case of cash ready, it is the same date. In case of TOM rate, it is the next working day. In the case of spot, it is the third working day. That is 2 days after. And a forward rate also is there. Forward rate is when the exchange takes place after a certain period, it is called a forward rate. Suppose it is 30 days forward. That means the actual exchange of currencies takes place on the 30th day after the deal is struck. So forward periods can be 30 days, 60 days, depending upon the need of the person who is buying or selling the currency. Then we also use another word called premium. When a currency is costlier at a future date, it is said to be at a premium. That means if you want to buy the currency at a future date, you have to pay a higher amount. Then that currency is said to be at a premium. For example, let us say US dollar today is 49 rupees. And if the forward rate, that is 1 month after, it is 51 rupees. That means you are required to pay more rupees for purchasing the same dollar after 30 days. So dollar is said to be at a premium. And the opposite of that is called a discount. When a currency is cheaper at a future date, it is said to be at a discount. For example, if the today's dollar rate is 49 rupees and after 1 month it is 48 rupees, that means dollar is said to be at a discount to rupee. That means you can buy it cheaper after 30 days. So here now we are required to calculate different rates. For that we have to find out as to how to calculate the forward rates from the spot rates. So forward rates are quoted in terms of forward margins or forward differentials. That means this is the difference between the spot rate and the forward rate. That is called a forward margin or a differential. For example, let us take the example of an euro with a US dollar. Let us say spot rate of euro 1 is equal to US dollars 1.3180 by 90. So what is the meaning of that 90? 80 and 90. That 90 doesn't mean so exactly 90, it means 1.3190. So only the last two decimal figures are shown there. Instead of showing the entire thing, the practice is to show the last two decimals. So one is the buying rate, the other is the selling rate. And now we want to calculate 1 month forward. So if the rate quoted is 35.32, 2 month forward 72.70, 3 month forward 110 to 107. So what does it mean? It means that 35 has to be added to 1.3180 and 32 has to be added to 1.3190. That will give you the forward rate after 1 month, both buy and sell. Similarly, if it is a 2 month forward, you add 72, that is 0.0072. Only last two decimals are shown without the decimal point. So you have to add 0.0072 to 1.3180, and similarly you have to add 0.0070 to 1.3190 to arrive at the 2 month forward buying and selling rate. Same thing happens in the case of a 3 month forward. So if in forward the first figure is lower than the second, the base currency is at a premium in forwards, otherwise it is said to be at a discount. That means Let us take the first example. 1 month forward, we have stated 35.32. The first figure is higher than the second figure. So it is said to be at a discount. If the first figure were 32 and the second figure was 35, then it is said to be at a premium. So there in the above example, euro is at a discount to US dollars because the first figure of 35 is greater than the second figure of 32. If the reverse is there, then that currency is said to be at a premium to the other currency. Then euro would have been at a premium to US dollars. So forward exchange rates, let us find out how they can be actually calculated by taking the same example. So first of all, what you have to do is to arrive at the forward rate, the spot rate is adjusted for the forward points. If the base currency is at a premium, the forward rates points are always added to the spot rate, while they are deducted if the base currency is at a discount. So this is very important. That means if the currency is at a premium, then whatever forward points are given, that 35, 32 in that example, have to be added. But if the currency is at a discount, those points have to be subtracted. So in the earlier example, we found out that euro is at a discount. So that 35, 32, which is the forward margins for 1 month, have to be subtracted from the rates quoted on a spot basis. So the spot rate there, the bid rate is, the first rate is always the bid rate, second rate is always the offer rate. So bid rate was 1.3180. So since the currency is at a discount, you deduct that 35. 35 means it is 0.0035. So 1.3180 minus 0.0035 will give you the figure of 1.3145. Similarly, in the case of offer rate, that is the second rate, second spot rate, it is 1.3190. You deduct 0.0032 to arrive at 1.315 rate. So the rate quoted for 1 month forward will be 1.3145 bar 58. So only the last two digits of the offer rate are taken into account. So that is how it is calculated for a forward exchange rate. You have to remember that the margins are always deducted if the currency is quoted at a discount. The margins are always added if the currency is quoted at a premium. Now we come to the concept of what is known as arbitrage. Arbitrage normally is an operation by which one can make risk-free profits by undertaking offsetting transactions. What it means is you can try to do two kinds of transactions in two different markets depending on the price differential. For example, if the price in one market is higher than the price in another market, so you have to sell in the market where the price is higher and buy in the market where the price is lower. That means buy low and sell high. And if you can do it simultaneously by taking advantage of the price differential, you will be making profits. So normally arbitrage opportunities exist everywhere. Not only in the case of foreign exchange market, arbitrage opportunities exist in the case of commodities also. For example, if items are sold at different prices in two different markets, there will always be people who can take advantage of the differential in the markets and try to make money. So it can happen in the commodity market, it can happen in the stock market, it can also happen in the foreign exchange market. So these arbitrage opportunities exist normally because the markets are separated either by time and space. Normally if the market are at one place, then there cannot be any arbitrage opportunities, but normally since markets are spread across, one market may be in Australia, another market in London, or the Australian market may open in the morning whereas the London market opens only in the evening because of the time differential. Because of these differences in location and time, the arbitrage opportunities can happen. So with this we come to the end of this chapter.